we are joined by Senior Counsel for Global Affairs, and you know him, and you've heard from him the whole year, 2021 and part of 2020, but that is Mike Pompeo, who is joining us. Secretary Pompeo and Senior Counsel, I appreciate you joining us again. Merry Christmas. I haven't talked to you since then. Also, Happy New Year coming up. So I appreciate you coming on here to talk about a lot of issues that are very important. You have a new blog that is up that came up during the Christmas season called This Christmas Season, Remember Those Still Struggling to Celebrate. As we know, there are a lot of places around the world where just the simple act of celebrating Christmas and celebrating the holiday season is no easy task.
Boy, that is certainly the case. Merry Christmas to you and to everyone at ACLJ and all your listeners as well. We know that even in pockets, places inside the United States we watched this year where bars were open but churches were closed. We suffer that risk at home as well. But in places like China in the West or in parts of the Middle East, there are people who simply can't practice their faith. They can't raise their families the way they want to. If they talked about Jesus Christ as their Savior in the way that we are free to do here in the United States, they would run real risk. We should all keep in mind and pray for these people and wish that the United States will do all that it can to continue to lead and guarantee and proffer religious freedom and opportunities for these people all across the world as well.
For sure. And you discussed in this blog specifically Nigeria, and it's something that we've brought up from time to time here at the ACLJ. You fought to bring attention to the persecution of Christians in Nigeria, and you even placed Nigeria on the countries of particular concern list. Why do you feel that was the right move, and what happens when a country is placed on this list?
Well, the answer to the second question is an important one. It heightens American attention to it, the world's attention to it. It makes it more difficult for that country to engage in activities across the world without this blemish, where the United States has made clear that we are watching how they treat religious minorities inside of the country. The decision with respect to Nigeria was the right one. For an awfully long time, administrations had just turned their gaze away from what was taking place in Nigeria. And we want good things for all the Nigerian people. We want the Nigerian government, who does some great things in certain places. We want the Nigerian government to recognize that their country, too, can be better by protecting religious minorities, not just Christian minorities, but all minority religions. And if they do that, they'll be safer. Those people will be safer, and their government will be stronger, and their place in the international world will be more secure as well. This is a big country, as you well know, a huge population, an important anchor in Africa, and we want good things for the Nigerian people. So placing them on the State Department's list of countries of particular concern was an attempt also to bolster the capacity for the people that are fighting for religious freedom to know that the United States would support them in their efforts.
Now, Will, though, there seems to be a change coming when it comes to Nigeria.
That's right, Secretary Pompeo. The Biden administration has removed Nigeria from the list. So has the situation in Nigeria gotten better for the persecuted, or is this more of the Biden administration just trying to eviscerate any policy put in place by the previous administration?
I actually think it's worse than that. I wish it was just anti-Pompeo or anti-Trump. I think this administration has placed religious freedom everywhere in the world, and Nigeria is a good example. They've placed religious freedom behind the other things that they care about, climate change being foremost among them, right? They're willing to sacrifice an awful lot of individual freedom, liberty, and religious freedom around the world on the altar of their faith, what's become an article of faith, climate change. And so what they did in Nigeria doesn't represent the factual situation on the ground. No, sadly, the situation has not improved. If anything, it's become even more difficult. And the removal of Nigeria from the country of particular concern list will make it even more difficult for those simply wanting to practice their faith inside of Nigeria.
Yeah, in relation to Nigeria and really the ACLJ in general, we're kind of uniquely situated to advocate for the persecuted in places like the UN. I know you've seen this firsthand, but as we are heading into the end of the year, just a day away from 2022 beginning, obviously it's a time of year people are donating, are giving back, are wrapping up their year, and there's people in organizations and people who work with organizations like the ACLJ that are there, and you've been there. And when you're there and you see administrations turn their back on promises or things like what's happening in Nigeria, I'd love to hear from your point of view and to just share with the audience why it's important for organizations like the ACLJ to exist in these uncertain times.
Oh, goodness, it's incredibly important. Perhaps even more important in times when the administration is not supporting these things that we care about, right? Protection of human life, religious freedom, the relationship between the United States and Israel, all the things that the ACLJ has stood for all of these years. Perhaps it's even more important in these times because that continuity, that continued voice, the capacity for leaders, not just American leaders, but certainly American leaders, to hear from people in America who talk about this issue in ways that are important to them. It may not be the story of the day. It may not be some trial that's going on. It may not be some big scandal that took place. But this is at the center of civilization. This is at the center of humanity. And I think the ACLJ's supporters understand that. And in these times when the administration may not be as prepared to defend the things that we all care so much about, it's even more important that an organization like the ACLJ is out there fighting, raising its voice, litigating, doing whatever it can to defend these freedoms across the world in the face of an administration that, if not hostile, is at least passive with respect to protecting these rights.
Secretary Pompeo, you mentioned in that article at ACLJ.org that we're seeing much more religious persecution around the globe. You mentioned the Uyghurs in China, you mentioned North Korea and Iran, and even a rise in Haiti. When the U.S. fails to lead on the world stage, is this just the natural progression?
Of course. It has always been the case that the United States has been this beacon of freedom. Religious freedom in particular is enshrined in our Constitution. Right, we talk about the capacity for people to practice their faith in the very founding documents that we turn to every day. Not every country has the benefit of that in its founding documents. And when the United States is on the global stage, as we were for 4 years, myself and Ambassador Brownback, the Vice President Pence, all of us working, talking about this openly wherever we travel in the world and while we are here at home, if the United States will simply make the case around the world, there's a chance that things will get better. And if we don't, it makes it all too easy for these terrible regimes, the Ayatollah in Iran and Chairman Kim in North Korea and Xi Jinping in China. It makes it all too easy for these leaders to say, no one's watching. Let's tighten the screws. Let's clamp down. Let's not allow for any political voices that might somehow overthrow our regime.
And Secretary Pompeo, we are looking ahead at this new year in 2022. What are some of the major national security concerns you see that are going to be facing us that we'll be talking with you about on this broadcast?
Well, we always are surprised in this space, but we can certainly see that Xi Jinping is going to host this Olympics and make himself look like a noble, patriotic leader. What his intentions are for Taiwan can't be good. I think we'll be talking about that. I know the president spoke with Vladimir Putin last evening about what's going on between Russia and Ukraine. I pray that that situation will resolve itself and America will be strong and defend its friends and allies in the ways that we have committed to. I also suspect that we will continue to see lots of security issues, national security issues around our southern border. Something that, it always gets kind of pushed to the side in the national security or in the immigration debate. But when we have open borders, when our sovereign border on the south is not strong, you can be sure that the bad guys take notice of that, and the risk, our national security risk associated with that, is significant. And I suspect in 2022 that will continue to be the case.
Well, Secretary Pompeo, we have a couple minutes here left, and it's a couple minutes for this year. And I wanted to first thank you for being part of the ACLJ team and family and coming on this show, multiple times a week, contributing incredible blogs. And by the way, if you haven't seen or read any of Secretary Pompeo's amazing pieces, pretty much every week there's been a new one for the last year. So go back. We're right now highlighting some of the best pieces and the most trafficked pieces of the last year. Go take a look at what we did at ACLJ.org. There's great information that came straight from him. And without people like you supporting the work of the ACLJ, we wouldn't be able to have people like Secretary Pompeo on this show continually.